Hello, my name is Katie Hansen, and I'm a financial aid advisor at UW Stevens Point. Today I'm presenting what you need to know about financial aid. This is information that was put together by the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators. I'll be going through this rather quickly to try to keep our presentation under 15 minutes, so feel free to rewind and rewatch any sections you wish to listen to more carefully. We will discuss today what is financial aid, the cost of attendance, also known as COA, expected family contribution, also known as EFC, financial need and how it's calculated, the categories, types, and sources of financial aid, the free application for federal student aid, more commonly known as the FAFSA, as well as special circumstances. First, what is financial aid? Financial aid consists of funds provided to students and families to help pay for post-secondary educational expenses. The cost of attendance, also known as COA, is a budget that each school puts together based on that school's tuition and fees, as well as their room and board expenses. And then they also calculate and budget for books and supplies, transportation expenses, as well as miscellaneous personal expenses that we expect students will have throughout the year. This cost of attendance number will vary from school to school and will vary also across the nation, as well as how expensive of an institution it is. What is expected family contribution, EFC? It is a measurement of a student's and family's ability to pay post-secondary educational expenses. We use information put on the FAFSA, put through a federal formula made up of the student contribution as well as the parental contribution for dependent students to figure out what the EFC is. We will discuss dependency in a later slide. What is financial need? We take the cost of attendance of that specific institution and we subtract the expected family contribution specific to that student, and that calculates what the student's financial need is. So some financial aid requires need in order to receive it. That we call need-based aid. And there's other types of aid that is not based on financial need, and that is considered non-need-based aid. There are four basic categories or four basic types of financial aid. Some of it we consider self-help and some we consider gift aid. For example, over on the gift aid side, we have scholarships and grants. Scholarships students earn or win and they don't have to pay those back, so that's a gift. Same as grants. Most grants are based on financial eligibility of the expected family contribution, and so that also does not need to be paid back, so that's considered gift aid. On the self-help side, loans do need to be paid back, so that is considered self-help. Same with work-study employment. If a student has a work-study job on campus and has been awarded work-study funds, then they will get paid that out to help pay for those other expenses. Sources financial aid. We'll talk about each of these and their qualifications. First, federal government. It's the largest source of financial aid. It's provided primarily on the basis of financial need. You must apply each year using the free application for federal student aid, and eligibility requirements must be met. Some eligibility requirements must include things such as they must be degree seeking, receive a 2.0 or higher GPA, and be passing at least 2/3 of their classes that they attempt. Federal student aid programs, some of the federal Pell Grant is a major one, same with the federal direct student loan programs. These are all wonderful things to help students that have different specific needs. States also have financial aid available. Residency requirements usually apply, meaning a parent or a student must be a resident of that state to receive it. Aid may be provided on the basis of both merit, meaning grades or what kind of a community member they are, as well as financial need. They also use information from the FAFSA or a state aid application. Wisconsin uses information from the FAFSA and does not have its own aid application, but the deadlines do vary by state. Colleges and universities also provide aid based on merit and need. Aid may be gift aid or self-help aid. We also use information from FAFSA or an institutional application, and deadlines and application requirements vary by institution. There are also private sources of financial aid. There are foundations, businesses, churches, civic groups, and charitable organizations that have scholarships and grants and other programs available for students. Their deadlines and application procedures vary greatly, so pay attention to those, and you'll want to begin researching private sources early. You also want to check with your employers, as they may have scholarships available for the children or even grandchildren of employees, or tuition reimbursement. And they may also have educational benefits just for their employees. So it doesn't hurt to ask. Information about the free application for federal student aid, also known as FAFSA. So FAFSA refers to the application to receive financial aid. The FAFSA collects demographic and financial information. The information then is used to calculate that expected family contribution, that EFC. And then colleges use the EFC to offer financial aid, and the FAFSA is available in both English and Spanish. It may be filled out at any time during an academic year, but no earlier than October 1st prior to the academic year for which the student requests aid. For example, for the 2021-2022 academic year, the FAFSA opened up on October 1st, 2020. And colleges may set FAFSA priority dates, but I always encourage you to fill out the FAFSA at any time throughout the academic year in which you think you may qualify for aid. And even if you don't think you qualify, fill it out anyway. You might be surprised. So the FAFSA can be filled out in a number of ways. There's FAFSA on the web, which is a very common way to fill it out using a computer. You can fill it out on My FAFSA via the My Student Aid mobile app. There's a paper, downloadable PDF FAFSA. There's FAFSA on the phone, as well as FAA access to CPS online. The first two options, FAFSA on the web and My FAFSA via the My Student Aid mobile app, are the two most common and my two most recommended ways of filling out the FAFSA. The benefits of using FAFSA on the web or My Student Aid is that they have built-in edits to prevent costly errors, skip logic, which allows students and the parents to skip questions that are unnecessary, and it also allows you the option to use the IRS data retrieval tool to import tax data. It allows more timely submission of original application and any necessary corrections. They have more detailed instructions and help for common questions. It allows you the ability to check application status online, and then a much more simplified application process in the future. This is a little bit of what the first screen for FAFSA on the web looks like. You see apply for aid is circled at the top. You can log into my student or into studentaid.gov, click on apply for aid, and then either click new to the FAFSA process or returning user. And as what was said on the previous screen, the second time you fill out the FAFSA or third is much easier if you've already done it through FAFSA on the web, and they will auto-populate the consistent information. Here's a little look at what the My Student Aid mobile app looks like. It has the ability to begin, complete, save, and submit the FAFSA right through a smartphone. Information about the IRS data retrieval tool. Use it if you can. Basically, use it if you can. It allows for certain tax return information to be transferred from the IRS data retrieval, from the IRS database. Participation is voluntary, and the student chooses whether to transfer data to FAFSA on the web. The IRS will authenticate the taxpayer's identity before sending anything. And if a tax record is found, the IRS transfers that information to populate those sections of the FAFSA. And this greatly reduces the documents requested by financial aid office, which allows you to receive financial aid with less steps, which we all like. There are certain tax filers who cannot use the IRS data retrieval tool. You may want to pause here and read through here to see if there's something here that you may not be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool. FSAID, the Federal Student Aid Identification. This is used for FAFSA completion and allows access to certain U.S. Department of Education websites. It can be used by the students and parents throughout the financial aid process, including subsequent school years, and only the owner should create an FSAID, meaning mom, dad, let your child create their own FSAID, and it's up to them to create their username and password and come up with retrieval questions that make sense to them. But you want to, as a word of note, you want to make sure your retrieval questions will also make sense next year and the year after. I had one student who put down as their question, my favorite music, which was not specific enough or evergreen enough for them to remember a year later exactly what they put down. You know, maybe they could guess rock or country, but maybe they named a band. It was a bit of a work, so make sure you just have the right, have a question and answer that will make sense 5-10 years from now. FAFSA on the web worksheet. Some families find it helpful to download and fill out worksheets before filling out FAFSA on the web. It gives a preview of questions that may be asked regarding basic information for the student and parent. When a student's filling out their FAFSA, some information they'll need includes their social security number, citizenship status, marital status, information about any drug conviction of possession or sale, their selective service registration information for students assigned male at birth, highest education level completed by their parents. Student dependency status. So the FAFSA asks questions to determine dependency status for their Title IV federal student aid, not for IRS purposes. So students will be asked 10 questions. Some examples are you married or separated but not divorced? For most students coming from high school into college directly, that will probably be no. A veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, probably no. Are you age 24 or older? For most students coming from high school to college, that'll be no. So there's 10 questions like that. If a student answers yes to any question, then a student is considered independent. Information about parents of dependent students. So this is if a student answers no to all 10 of those questions and is considered a dependent student, then we will also need this information from parents. The tax, income, and other financial information, dislocated worker status, receipt of means tested federal benefits in the previous 2 years, information about assets and untaxed income. That same information will also be asked about the student as well as their spouse if they are married. They will also ask other information such as which colleges or universities would you like this information sent to. You can list up to 10 at a time. Your housing plans, whether you plan on living on campus, off campus, or at home with parents. And then if you use a FAFSA preparer, the information about that preparer. Most people fill it out themselves, so you wouldn't have to fill out information about a preparer if you don't use one. Signatures at the end, we will need information for we will need a signature from the student as well as one parent if that student is dependent. You can do your signature online using your FSA ID. You can submit a signature page or you can fill out the paper FAFSA to submit a signature. Here are some frequent FAFSA errors. You'll want to make sure you put in the correct social security number, double, triple check that, information about divorced, widowed, or remarried parents, income information by parent or step parent, untaxed income, U.S. income taxes paid, household size, number of household members in college, and real estate and investment net worth. Meaning if you have, let's say, a cabin up north and you have a mortgage on it, you only would put down as real estate investment what you currently own of it, not the full value, but what you own after you subtract the mortgage still owed. After the information is sent to the central processing, that FAFSA information then is sent to both the college as well as the student to review. When you review your FAFSA information, if there's any corrections that need to be made, you can do so on the web if using your FSA ID to log in. You can update your paper student aid report, or you may need to submit information to your college's financial aid office. There are also special circumstances in which your original expected family contribution might be able to be changed using updated information. So there are conditions that exist that cannot be documented with the FAFSA. As a note, the FAFSA uses what we call the prior year. So for the academic year 2021, the FAFSA asks for 2019 tax year information. Since 2019, there has been a lot of things that have changed in our economy. Some families members have lost jobs or have had layoffs or furloughs thanks to COVID-19. So the special circumstances could account for that and look at updated information and possibly create a better financial aid package using updated information. What you would want to do is first contact your college's financial aid office to see if they have a financial appeal process or if they just need that written explanation and documentation. But I would check with that financial aid office first before sending something in to make sure that you're not duplicating your work. The college will then review and request additional information as necessary. Decisions are final and cannot be appealed by the U.S. Department of Education. So some examples of special circumstances in which you may want to do a financial aid appeal include divorce, secondary school tuition, loss of employment, unusual uncovered medical and dental expenses, uh, the death of a parent or a spouse, a student can't obtain parental information, or extraordinary dependent care. So if you're in one of these situations and you're not quite sure what to do, call your financial aid office, the school's financial aid office, and ask what the procedure is for appealing financial aid. Any other questions? I hope you bring them to the questions and answers portion, and I look forward to helping you more. Have a wonderful day.